I think the backup precon is underrated, and I firmly disagree with the command zone's take on this deck. I think, and also like on a broader scale, I won't get into this, but I think on a broader scale, I just disagree. I find myself disagreeing quite a lot with the EDH rec, MTG Goldfish, Command Zone, Tolarian Community College, whatever command podcast you own or play or watch or whatever. I mean, it's, to be clear, they make good content, phenomenal content, better content than I can make, obviously. Like, why are you watching me? But that doesn't mean I don't think they're wrong at points. And I think this is a deck that honestly, I think March of the Machine in general just got slept on, at least in terms of the precons, because 3 out of the 4 precons were actually pretty good. Because if I go to, here's what the Desert Bloom. If you want my quick off-the-cuff ratings, this is the most powerful one because Eminence is just that strong. Then it's Bright Palm because you doubling Season on a stick. It goes absolutely crazy. Especially if you have any other way to like play into your 1/1 counter synergy, your commander turns into a lethal Voltron machine very quickly. And you would be surprised how often Can't Be Blocked by Powers 2 or less really helps you out. Then Kozla because just build a Locust God deck or build a Kai card deck and you'll be fine. Even with like the base precon, just swap the, I don't know, like I love Kozla. I've tried to make this work, and I think I did recently, but just swap commanders. Because this is a functional game plan that just is somewhat clashing. And finally, this is the worst. This sucks. It's terrible. Who cares? So bad, seriously. But like these aren't bad. They're not bad at all. Like this is a very solid. I don't personally enjoy this pile of stay, even though I've had this deck precon and I've put some tweaks into it and upgraded it. It's a good precon. It's a very solid game plan. It's just not the kind of game plan I enjoy, unfortunately. But Circling Bright Palm. This is my version, right? So a lot of this is mostly from the precon. I disagree with people. I think Commander Sphere is underrated card, especially in this deck, because you're still running a stupid amount of tap lands. But sometimes you just do not draw the color you need. And having a way to get that is actually fairly important. Currently mentioned the precon. This should have been in the precon. At the very least, you're duplicating your commander's ability. So you put a counter on your commander so you can duplicate it later. And you're putting a counter on something else so that you can effectively use your commander's ability the same turn. Evasion is good. I really like this dash ability. Giving something double strike. I know why they cut this card. And I know it's slow and inefficient, but in my heart of hearts, is it not just a blast to just double the amount of 1/1 counters on this thing several times? Get like an 8/8 Fertilade, and then just spend a bunch of mana ramping. You should run more effects like this. This is a good effect. Yeah, like Kami Whispered Hopes. It targets by permanent, by the way. Best card, one of the best cards in the deck. Krenko. I haven't seen him pop off as of late, but I will say this: there's a lot of synergies in this deck. For example, Krenko, Good Fortune Unicorn, and Armorcraft Judge. You draw a lot of cards that way. That's all I'm saying. You know, really, all this deck needed was just better card draw and ramp, and just take out some of the more inefficient pieces, right? So card draw, synergies is what you're doing. I added all these effects that I had on hand. I mean, this isn't necessarily the best card in the world, but I don't know. It's fun. Who cares? Trample enablers are always good. Ramp's good. This is starting to get at like one of the sub themes of the deck I'll get into. Honestly, you could cut this for literally any other card, but Life Thing comes in handy sometimes. I hate and love this card, but my current build, I generally find one of these effects to like put counters on things. so it generally pays off. You have like 36, 37 creatures in this deck, you're fine. This gets more into what I'm leading into. Don't cut this. Don't listen to the haters. You can still listen. Just double the counters on this once or twice, and it'll be like an 8/8. And you can just, somebody tries to remove it, you just remove all the counters and you draw 4 cards, and it's great. It's in the precon. And more 1/1 counter synergy stuff, right? Cost reducer. This and this means this ability gets activated 6 times. Very strong. Very strong. This is just an underrated card. You just swing out and you find something. It's great. Seriously. Recursion, card draw, trample enable card draw, haste enabler, card draw or counters. I'll get to that in a moment. I'll get haste enabler, draw cards. This part could be swapped around a little bit, but I probably ought to put another board up here and maybe cut that. Card draw, ramp, protection spell. I mean, hopefully you get to just kill people before they can blow up your board, but this also serves as a protection spell in a pinch, but I don't know when you'll be in a position where you have mana to cast this. And then I just took out some of the more inefficient lands. I also added more lands, I think, because this deck can sometimes really struggle to do what it needs to do, which is draw me cards, play creatures, and get a land drop every turn. Now, something everyone other than me seems to have missed is that this is a backup counters deck, which means it's an ETB triggers deck, which means effects like Panharmonica are very strong. So now I'm going to go over everything that deals with ETB triggers. ETB trigger, not ETB trigger, not ETB trigger. Deals synergizes with ETB triggers. Wants things to enter the battlefield. ETB, 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 ETB engine, ETB, 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 ETB. Yeah. When you make a copy of a token, even if it enters attack, which means you miss out on. There's actually a lot of good attacks triggers in this deck. But even if you miss out on the attack triggers, you still get ETB triggers. So, worst case scenario. Okay, literally worst case scenario is you have this and your commander, and due to legend rule, your copy of your commander immediately dies. But you get to put a 1/1 counter on something, which isn't the best. But you should, I think, be able to stack attacks triggers, because this is both on attacks. So you'll resolve this trigger first, make your copy, put a counter on your commander. Worst case scenario, now your commander has 2 counters on it, then you double it to 4. Okay, you could do stuff, right? This is another thing. This and a card I took out of the Precon and during Scalard goes infinite. Honestly, just any copy effect. It's great. Hey, when something dies and you put it to your hand, you recast it, you get that ETB trigger. Oh, what? Who cares about ETB triggers? ETB off of drawing cards. Haste or Riot, And also, this last effect here is just... There's a lot of doubling in this deck, and people just missed out on it. I guess 2 things in particular I want to point out. Annie joins up or Mirror Shield Hoplite. Annie joins up says, not only does your commander's ETB trigger twice, which, as we established, is good, because any one of these creatures that has a lot of counters on it, say this, double the amount of counters on this, that can be very, very powerful. Or maybe you just want to get something big the same turn you cast it, whatever, right? This also triggers off of its attack ability, because attacking is a triggered ability, and even if it's just this, and then I guess Cranko counts as well. I guess that's also triggered. I don't know. I mean, it's just a good card, Just running it for the commander. But also, what you could do, what you should do, is if you can make your creature, if you can make your ramp ETB based or creature based, that synergizes a lot with the rest of what the deck is trying to do. Also, yeah, double the amount of counters in each creature you control. Insanely strong. So I have a meal, right? Ideally, you use it to blink like something like Solemn or Wood Elves or whatever. And it's great. It's wonderful. If your commander's out, you ramp 3 lands. All of this is good stuff. And so also as part of that, like, how do you just, I don't know, like, how do you just have decks that just, like, unless they're, like, your pet decks, how do you just have decks that just end up costing over, like, $100 on average? This might not be, like, the smartest of ideas. It's just like, I mean, I built a Voja bulk deck, and I'm not sure if I've updated the list, which, by the way, this goes absolutely insane, as to no one's surprise. I might have tweaked this a little bit. Yeah, I got this thing some better lands. Which, by the way, just like, even if you have like you could just have like a $35 deck, but your commander's insanely strong, and you can dominate any upgraded precon that you face against. Because unless they're packing tons of board wipes, just the sheer amount of cards that you draw is just so hard to overcome value-wise. It also doesn't hurt that $10 of this deck is literally this card, which I just pulled randomly in a pack. So, I mean, quote-unquote, take that. Sorry, if I'm being salty, Ken from One More Mana and his complaint about no deck being over $100, and how that was difficult to build with. I don't know. I don't get it. Like, there's so many good cheap cards out there. You don't even need to like break the budget. Just build with what you have and build synergy, and you're fine. Who cares? It's great. My most there's 2 lists that I have that are like actually realistically crack over above 200. I mean, first of all, there's my landfall deck, which is my baby, and who cares? But it's this deck. Oh, and then it's this deck. So Kenrith cracks over 200 because I have a proxied mana base. Like, I don't actually own all these shocklands or whatever, right? And I'm gonna do something else with him, but he's a domain deck. And then I just throw in whatever random 5-color shenanigans I have going on. Like, reanimating these 2, it's just such a great time. This is, I think, fallen in price as of late. This has shot up in price. But I just kept throwing, like, expensive enchantments in this. This deck has, like, dropped in price, which is totally fine, by the way. Like, no card should cost over that. It's just like, the only way you crack a budget this high is if you're just like, you know what, frick it, proxy OG duels. Which in that case, does this even, like, really realistically count? Like, the mana base is $5,000 of this budget. Right? Oh yeah, by the way, Jared is another underrated underrated commander. These talents are just insane. I mean, not all of them necessarily are the best. Like, this one is, I mean, 1 a turn is not too bad. And Vivian's talent's a bit of hit or miss, but like, copying abilities, I mean, seriously, oh yeah, is cracked. So if MTG Forge could finally update how this could work, that'd be appreciated, but whatever. Point is, it's not hard to, like, build cheap decks. I mean, $100 is, honestly, $100 is actually quite a lot of money. So, like, you could just buy a precon and you'd be fine. Just, like, slowly tweak it over time. That's it's literally how my Solar Windgrist deck started, but anyways, I think they actually had some pretty good calls on the upgrade thing for this deck. Essentially, you know, cheap protection spell, go wide, kick counters, better ramp, don't have return to nature, have it be. Yeah, it's just your standard stuff, right? You just try and make your creatures do whatever you need to do, right? And then they just cut everything that's like inefficient and not fast, which is, I mean, yes, good point. But also, I mean, it's getting at my final point of just like I think these guys are just out of touch with what people usually play with. Because like this deck can easily like win by turn 6 if people just don't interact with me. And even if I do, it's perfectly capable of winning on like turn 7 or 8. You know, that's usually the average of our games. Well, it's 8 to 9. And it can kill faster because, you know, doubling is very, very strong. I don't know. It is what it is.